Hi, I'm Michelle. Welcome back to Finally Revealed. In this video, I want to talk about, hey, do I need a trust? A friend of mine actually contacted me today and asked me that question after one of her neighbors said, hey, if your house is not in a trust, the government is going to take half of what it's worth. So she naturally was concerned and reached out to say, is this correct or not? Well, I noticed that in my videos that I have talking about trusts, what kinds they are, and whether or not you need a will, I didn't really address this question. Now, this is going to depend generally on your, or not generally, this is going to depend specifically on your situation. So you need to talk to someone in your area about your specific situation, because I can't guess over the internet and I don't know you. So, but this guideline should help you. There are two basic kinds of trusts. One is a testamentary trust that is created in a will, and that is something that doesn't exist until you die, and only in certain situations that are governed by the will. The number one reason that there would be a testamentary trust is when you have minor children, because it provides for your property. If you die and your children aren't grown yet, they're not yet 18, you want your assets put into trust for them so they don't just get everything as a small child or even as a young adult. So you provide for that in your simple will, and then if you die and your kids are 13, 14 years old, your property for them goes into trust, and their expenses are paid for, their education, however you decide and describe in there. Now, the other kind of general trust, these are just general categories, is an inter vivos trust or a living trust. And that would be something you create now while you're alive, and you use it now while you're alive. And then on my other video, I talk about all the different kinds of trusts that there are. And those are generally within the inter vivos living trust. So it's something you create and you use now while you're living, and then it has provisions that expand further after you die and takes care of what's going to happen with your business, your property, or things like that. Do you need that kind of a trust? Well, then the basic question is, are your assets significant enough such that if you died today, the federal estate tax would apply to your assets and wipe it out to half? And so when my friend was, had that admonition by her neighbor, that was legitimate, because he doesn't know. She has a big, beautiful house, and possibly, he thinks she's very well to do and could be subject to this penalty if she were to die tomorrow. And there's so many celebrities in the news right now. Prince is the latest that died, and there's a question about whether he had a will, that it's on people's mind, and so they're looking out for each other. So she said, do I need one? Well, I don't know your particular situation, but here is the limit, and the limit changes on federal estate tax, except for 2010 when you could die and there was no federal estate tax. Congress has brought it back, and as long as it's here, you need to check on it, on the amount that is subject to taxation. And as you become more successful and you acquire more assets, then it becomes something that you need to consider. And if your net estate, or your estate, if you die, looks like it's approaching that number, then you might consider creating a trust. But just to have one in general is not necessary, unless you have other reasons for it, which I detail in the other video. But the basic rule, or the basic reason, is to safeguard assets from the tax, from the estate tax. And if your estate does not approach that level, then there's not going to be an estate tax, and you can follow any of the other methods. You can have a will, you can have transfers outside of probate, which you can have that anyway. The transfers that aren't going to be included in your estate are not going to be counted towards that number for estate tax purposes. So if you think that your assets are approaching the level that would be subject to estate tax, if you died today, see a lawyer, write out all of your information, find out, and then you can make your own plan. good luck. I hope that you live long and prosper, and that you are successful and accumulate all kinds of wealth, and that you do need some of these tools. But if you don't, then don't get one. That's just silly. Save your money, because creating a trust is expensive. And one of the things you need to evaluate also is the cost of doing the trust versus the cost of what it's going to save you. And the professional who's going to create that trust for you should be able to tell you, if you died today without having their super duper trust, how much would there be in taxes? Then you can look at it. Maybe you don't think your heirs need to have all of your money when you die anyway, and so you're perfectly happy for it to just go the normal routes, pay the tax, divide what's left among your family, and go on. That's your decision. And as was recently actually today I saw online, Snoop Dogg was interviewed, and they said, "Do you have a will?" And he said, "No, I don't blame Prince. I don't have a will either. When I die, let all these people fight over it. I'll be dead." So maybe that's your attitude too, and if it is, your family can go to the probate court and deal with it on their own. But if you care about what happens with your assets, then you should make those arrangements in advance. I hope this was helpful. Feel free to comment, like, subscribe, and share. I'll see you next time.